At Focus on Liberia, we discuss everything Liberia, from education to politics, arts and culture, entertainment, agriculture, history, religion, family, and technology. Focus on Liberia uncovers and showcases the best of Liberia and shows the world the truth about Liberia. We educate, elevate, and promote all things Liberia. We conduct interviews, panel discussions, debates, and more. Tune in to Focus on Liberia on Facebook and YouTube and be a part of the stories that make up the news.
This is Focus on Liberia, and I am Dennis Jah.
Welcome, ladies and gentlemen, to Friday Night Debate on Focus on Liberia. My name is Dennis Jah, and we are broadcasting from Atlanta, Georgia. In tonight's debate, we're going to be looking at one big question with just barely over 2 weeks to go for elections. That is 18 days to election starting today. Who is going to win the presidential election slated for October 10, 2023? With me, I have my co-host, Mr. Ansony Sieh, the political bulldog who has really been chilling, and now he's back. Mr. Sieh, welcome.
It's good to be back, and let's have this debate. Let Liberia decide.
Yeah, let's decide. Let me introduce the independent candidate here, or the independent-minded Glendy Jane Jr. Glendy, welcome to Friday Night Debate.
Thank you, Dennis. It's good to be here.
Thank you for coming. Let me also welcome the unabashed and unapologetic Sedition Weah supporter, Jerome Gaiman. Mr. Gaiman, welcome to the show.
Thank you very much for having me on your show. I'm delighted. Ready to rumble.
Thank you. Let me also welcome Mr. Janitor Sieh Dolake, a Cummins supporter or CPP supporter. Welcome. Welcome, Mr. Dolake. Let me also welcome Mr. Elvis Morris. People know him for being the first to call on the show. Mr. Elvis is a Weah. He called himself a George Weah sympathizer. Mr. Morris, welcome to the show.
Thank you. Thank you for having me on.
Last and definitely not the least is Mr. Aliyu Kamara, who supports Boakai, Joseph Newman Boakai. Mr. Aliyu Kamara, welcome to the show.
Yeah, and may I add, Glendia, thank you so much for the other day, the way you were giving it to Marco Pamo. I hope you have another show about Marco Pamo tomorrow.
Then I'm making that I'll be there now.
We want to welcome all our viewers from across the globe. This is Focus on Liberia, where we educate, we elevate, and promote all things Liberia. At this time, I want to turn it over to my co-host, Mr. Sieh, who is going to take it away from me. And before I give it to Mr. Sieh, let me welcome Mr. Amula Mame, a Gonglo supporter. Mr. Mame, welcome to the show.
Thank you, Dennis. Good to be here.
Great.
Thank you, Mr. Mambe, for joining us and folks in cyberspace. This is Friday Night Debate. My name is Ansony Sieh, co-moderating in today's edition of Friday Night Debate. If you are just joining us, we want to say welcome. Hit that share button and let's debate Liberia. Liberia decides in October. This October 10th, Liberia decides. Who will we go with? That is what we are trying to look at today. Well, the biggest question in today's debate is, with barely 18 days to the election, who will win Liberia's 2023 presidential election? We are only doing a debate on the presidential election. So, folks, welcome. Hit that share button. Let's get started. So, folks, the stage is set. Our debaters are all ready to debate who's going to win this October presidential election. We will start with the first question. And who is most likely to win the presidential election comes October 10th? We will start with Mr. Jerome Gaiman. Mr. Gaiman, who's going to win this thing in October?
Yes, we are living in sparse more.
The election is basically, the election has been over 2 years ago. And for now, it's just a matter of formality. When we look at the massive development around the country, when we look at the education, the improvement in education, we look at the road construction, we look at in the United States, those of us who work in the public space, parks and recreation is a very, very key component of crime prevention and modernization. If you look at Liberia and you see parks and recreation developing all over the country, I think by next week, when the president returns, they're going to be unveiling a massive park on PHP. Those are all developmental projects that the people wanted. They have never had since 1822. So with all that we have had, the president is running on a record of tangibles. And we want to put our 6 years against 200 years. And we are ready to do that. And I think it's going to be a resounding first round victory.
Thank you. We will go to somebody who is supporting Mr. Joseph Yamabwaka, Mr. Alu Kamara. Who's going to win this thing in October? And on what basis will the person win, if you don't mind?
I will give you the straight answer. And if you want me to answer why, then you should ask me to answer why, maybe. But Joseph Boakai is poised to win this election, in fact, on the very first ballot.
And why we're making to win?
Thank you, Mr. Giver. You see how disciplined people do. Okay, let me give you some. Let me tell you something. Number one, Joseph Boakai is the most qualified, the most competent, the most experienced person as far as Liberia government is concerned. Now, the reason why the Liberian people have decided that Joseph Boakai is the man they're carrying, first and foremost, they have compared Joseph Boakai's administration to that of Mr. Gaiman's administration, and they have realized that Joseph Boakai's administration was a responsible administration. Joseph Boakai administration took over at a time when Liberia was nothing. Some people even suggested trusteeship. They took a government of a budget around $80 million, with only $20 million in the coffers, thereabout. A government that had no police, no military. They structured the police, trained the police, organized the police. They organized the entire security apparatus. They trained the military, a very trained military that goes around the world now on peacekeeping missions. We have a few of them in Mali through the Joseph Boakai administration. A bad healthcare sector that they came and revamped, opened all public hospitals and subsidized private clinics, and also built new clinics for government. And I can list a million things, a million reasons. So based on comparing and contrasting, the Liberian people being the judge, they have weighed the coins and realized that Joseph Boakai is going to be the electable one. Now here's the deal. Now, don't get me wrong, there are other qualified candidates in the race. But in anything you do, you weigh your option and you realize you go with the safest option. And Joseph Boakai is the safest option in the opposition. And definitely Joseph Boakai is by far better than anyone in the CDC.
Mr. Aliu, I beg to follow up here. The administration you mentioned that Joseph Boakai was part of were captained by Ellen Johnson Sirleaf. When Sirleaf left, Joseph Boakai started captaining the Unity Party. And ever since then, the Unity Party has been losing for the most part. We are talking about Joseph Boakai captaining Liberia as president, right? If I can pull it that way. That is far different from the Unity Party that was headed by Ellen Johnson Sirleaf. Do you not see it that way?
No, in fact, not even close. Not even close to seeing it that way. You cannot divorce Joseph Boakai from Ellen administration when we talk about the good things. And then when we talk about the bad things, Joseph Boakai has to be tied to Ellen administration. Remember, Joseph Boakai and Ellen ran that government. All right? Let us just admit that. And to say that the Unity Party have been losing, I don't know what yardstick or statistic you're using. Let us look at the senatorial positions and the representative positions starting from 2019 upward. Unity Party have been losing according to you. Do you agree with that? Okay.
I stand by that. Unity Party has been losing for the most part. That's
has been losing because
the
2017. I know you disagree with yourself, but the 2017 election, of course, the writing was on the wall. It didn't matter who would have stood against George Weah at that particular time. You could disguise Barack Obama and paint him black because he's very light skinned, paint him very darker than me, and take him to Liberia. That just George Weah would have won that election anyway.
Mr. Kamara, thank you. Mr. Kamara, thank you. Let's come to Mr. Jonathan Dolacat. Jonathan, who is going to win the election this October? Any reason why you think that person is going to win?
Firstly, I'm of the belief that Mr. Cummings is well positioned for the presidency comes October. And beyond Mr. Cummings, who I support, I must be emphatically clear here that all elements of the opposition community are also well suited, other than George Weah, for the presidency for few reasons. Though my priority is Mr. Cummings. One, that there have been a massive corruption in our country that have made the repetition of our country, that there have been secret and ritualistic killings. Today, we still have the doubt of the 4 auditors, Agent Era, the 3 missing boys. We have our country have been turned into a drug baron of importation of narcotic drugs, that those who are believed to be importing those drugs go scot-free. Our image as a country have been damaged through its passport saga, and many of these drugs are believed to be brought in by people who carry diplomatic passport. As a good friend of mine, Andrew Wamplo, revealed how government manipulated in people getting diplomatic passport. The government of the Republic of Liberia, that Mr. Gilmer and other sedition back, have not been able to give any realistic measure as to the decision they are taking so far. We know that when these same things were about to happen under the Madam Sally regime, in as much as we have some issue with the former regime, but there were realistic and drastic steps that were taken by Madam Salif, and we saw Mirabel growing and building the image of our country. All we are saying at this movement is that when we did not see President Weah as president, we anticipated that something good would have been done. But what we have seen and felt at this time, it's clear to us that President Weah is unfit and he needs to be rejected. And like I said, my first priority will be Mr. Alex Zana Cummings, and I take all other opposition in the process over President Weah.
Mr. Dolaka, just a follow-up here. You mentioned the reasons you think President Weah will lose the election, and you also stated reasons why you think Mr. Cummings is more likely to win the election. But if you look at the two, one might be, one might want to believe that President Weah is pulling on more crowd compared to Cummings. My question here is that, are the Liberian people going away from Mr. Weah and going to Cummings, and for which you think that he's going to win? If so, what is the evidence that you see?
And so if I were to backtrack, when I served as deputy spokesperson of the ANC campaign team 2017, our campaign closure was scheduled on the next day after CDC launch. And today there's a CDC date in the country, CDC versus ANC. And CDC could not leave the Anthony Todman Stadium up to 4 o'clock in the morning. They closed Friday, and ANC closed on a Saturday. Yet the stadium got jam-packed, and ANC pulled the string. The issue about the crowd is something that scientifically we can count on, but by and large, with what is already unfolding, there must be studied that the crowd, there is a bandwagonism mentality in the movement of the crowd. So CDC launch, Unity Party launch, a canceled CDC launch, and then other political parties are yet to close. And so we are yet to see the numbers shifting here and there. So to just give you a definite answer that the partisans are moving, or people are moving aggressively towards CDC, I would not think in that direction. But again, it's a learning curve for us to put it on a scrutiny and do the appropriate mobilization, the outreach, in order to demonstrate that we have the people.
Thank you, Mr. Delake. I asked the question because there's a video that I've seen, and Mr. Cummings is on a car, he's waving to the people. And for the short time I watched, I didn't see anybody waving to him. But then when you see President Weah at an event, you see his supporter waving to him. I'm not saying Mr. Cummings' supporter will not wave to him, but that was so telling.
No,
he is to win.
Quickly, I would like to say maybe he was in a community that was closer to Akara's great house. But if you watch another video, people were.
Well, those are the voters that should vote for him, right?
If you check that,
we don't know where he was.
I'm coming. People are booing at President Weah. So what I'm saying is that if Mr. Cummings was found near Akara's great house and people were not waving to him, and George Weah was found in a terrain closer to Mr. Cummings, Mr. Bwaga area, and people were booing at him, or people just got angry.
Does that suggest that Akara Gray is so popular in his district and so? Okay, let's leave it at that. Thank you, Mr. Dulaka.
No. Last time we got settled on this, and that is why the SKD had not been opened. The SKD had not been opened because it is far away from the CDC constituent. The CDC constituent district 8, the Akara Gray have won twice. The Solomon George district is closer to Clarita, it's closer to District 15. You can walk to from District 16. So that is why they are concentrating the effort in that area. If we were to go to SKD,
thank you. That would be a whole different debate. Thank you. Thank you. Mr. Evan Morris, the October 10 election, we're talking about the presidential election. Who is most likely to win? What would be the reasons that person might be poised to win, you think?
Thank you. I think George Weah is most likely to win. And the reason is he has now, when you look at, elections, you talk about people coming over from the Unity Party who was disillusioned by the Ellen government. You have some people who just, wanted to see a change. So Weah got some of those votes, and he may likely lose those votes these elections. But his base is unwavering. He has about 20 to 28% of people who are going to stay with him. That's enough to get him into the second round. And I think the second round is where he's going to do his most work and his best work. The people around him is going to, they're going to do their best work. That's why I think it's not going to be a blowout election. It was only about 106,000 votes the last time. And it may be a 50,000 swing for Boyka this time around. So it might just be a 50,000 difference in the vote after everything is tallied up the second round. But I think on the optics right now, on the eye, just looking at things, Boyka seems to have the momentum in the moment. But I think when it comes to real strategy and money play, President Weah have the edge. So I think his base being unwavering will get him into that second round, and then his money and the financing that he has at his disposal is going to play a major part of getting him over the hump. That's why I think he's going to win, but it's going to be by thin margins. Thank you.
Mr. Morris, let us look at one thing here. The CDC that you're talking about, we have been hearing about this enchanting sedition.
Thank you.
The recent launch of Joseph Boakai tells us something. We saw more young people, highly enthusiastic. That is the kind of crowd you will see with a CDC in the past. That is now with the CDC. One might think that 28% President Weah had in previous elections to put into the second round, it may have dwindled, given the harsh condition in the country that young people are facing. Do you still believe that he has about 28% base that stay with him?
Like I said, you will see a switch over from, people who voted for him in the last elections who may not have been seditionists. There were young people who just liked him, they thought he was a celebrity, and they wanted somebody new. And those people has been disillusioned by, some of the perceived and real failures of his government. But it doesn't mean that, there won't be any switch over. So if you see people going to Joseph Boakai rally, let's remember Liberia is a young country overall. We're one of the youngest countries in West Africa. So the youthful population is enough to go around the different political parties. So young people going to boycott rally is not an indication that all of them are coming from CDC. Definitely not. So like I said, President Weah has the mechanism, he has the finances, and he still have a large popularity within our country. So people are going to still gravitate towards him. Maybe not as much as previous elections, but I think definitely he still has a solid base that will be enough to get him to the second round. Thank you.
Thank you. Mr. Mohammed, who stands the most chance, if any, to win the presidential election in October, and why would be those things that would make that person to come attack? Unmute yourself, please. You are still muted for some reason.
I was trying to connect my screen well.
Thank you.
So Councillor Gonglo was in Bon County today with Dr. Yakba Wulo. And the impression we are getting from across the country is that he's likely to win the election. We are very confident that Liberians want change. And they want a genuine change. A change they can trust, something they can believe, and something they can live with. George Weah will lose the election, and he will lose the election to Councillor Gongolo. The reason why George Weah will lose the election, part of the reasons why he will lose the election is because, like him, people who speak for him are intolerant with the facts. They cannot accommodate the reality of the day. Gay men talk about education. President Weah, under you, the most recent World Bank report on human capital has recorded massive decline in enrollment across Liberian schools under your administration. You can point to that. The Sieh report is telling you that human capital, which is the combination of your brain, your physical health, and your internal health combined, human capital. Liberia is only better than 3 countries in the world, that Chad, South Sudan, and Central African Republic. Countries that are in crisis. The only 3 countries you better off them in terms of human capital. 3 countries. And you talk about education here. Say because of education, President Weah will be re-elected. It's wrong. Enrollment decline honor you. Human capital decline honor you. You can't boast of teacher colleges across the country. The only one that Ellen Johnson said the government built, Zozo and Kakata are the only one we need there. The entire Southeast that you come from, you can't point to how you training teachers and putting out students. And that's the reason why when President Weah goes to campaign, he only talks about WAEC fee. You lead a country for 6 years. You invest in education. You can't brag about enrollment. You can't brag about teachers. You can't brag about human capital. You only talk about WAEC fees. But I will stop there to tell you that Gonglo will win the election. And the reason why we think so is because we have seen that more Liberians continue to cry and believe that corruption is the problem, and they believe he is the man that can fight corruption. George Weah will lose because his record are showing that he underperformed in education, in health, in security, and all the indicators you can talk about. Liberia today is the worst, is among the 10 countries to be the worst place for women to have children.
Mr. Mohammed, earlier you said the impressions, if I can put S to it, that you are getting suggest Mr. Gonglo will win the election. For our audience, what are those impressions that you are getting?
One, the people have realized that additional 6 years under George Weah will be disastrous. It will be a complete mess. That's one. That's one impression. We confirm that one. that they realize the additional 6 years on a Weah will be a disaster. Your country now is among 10 countries to be the worst place for women to have children in a war. So they're convinced. Now, the second impression is they're looking for alternative. To the extent that they got under the ring to express that they're looking for alternative beyond Joseph Boakai. So the second impression is, yes, they see all the different candidates, but they do not see that commitment for change in Joseph Boakai. They do not see that commitment for change in Alexander Cummings. They see that commitment in Councillor Gonglo. That's the second impression.
Thank you so very much. I will now turn things over to my partner, Dennis Jah. Folks in cyberspace, this is Focus on Liberia Friday Night Debate. I'm Ansony Sieh, co-moderating with my partner, Dennis Jah. Dennis?
Glendy, same question from Ansony. Who you think going to win and why?
So I want to piggyback to what Elvis said, because I think his response was everywhere. First thing was George Weah. Second thing was if George Weah goes to the second round. Third thing was Boakai has momentum. So it was a bit unclear. I don't think President Weah will win. I think the opposition in the end will pull together. And if whoever is in opposition that goes to the second round will win President Weah. And there are several reasons why they will win President Weah. And I also want to go back to what Ambulai said. The momentum that was seen, regardless of which side you're on, from the rally that was held last Sunday, speaks to one thing, and that is the people of Liberia want change. And they want change not in George Weah, but in someone else. We also cannot ignore the Councillor Gonglo and the Monibus factor, because they also have people behind them. They also have estates. Those are people like Councillor Gonglo is someone who's extremely credible, who has been fighting against corruption. And that can also galvanize the fact that the Liberians want change. But to just stay in here and clear cut and say on a pedestal that President Weah is going to win, it's going to be difficult, because people will want to look at his record. He is coming off a record, an immediate 6 years record, that shows to the people of Liberia nothing but failures. We can count all these things, we can count roles, but if you really dig into the roles, you link it to Ellen Johnson's government. So what is it that President Weah has that will speak for him? And one thing stood out to me from that last Sunday was the fact that the people did not even care whether they were passing through, quote unquote, excuse the expression, poo-poo water or what. They want change. And that is something that cannot be ignored based on everything that has happened. When you look at if President Weah is going to win, it's going to be highly impossible based on whatever record he has. What does he have to show? How many people are employed? How many people are unemployed? What was the poverty rate before he started? What is the poverty rate now? What is the rate of people that have been able to go to school? What was the rate then? What is the rate now? So there's so many things that you have to look at. And the thing about it is, you can look at a Boakai, you can look at Cummings, you can look at other candidates, but they're not coming directly off an immediate rule. President Weah is up front, so we can see him. So we have something to look at and compare to others. So I don't think, just from my perspective, that this is a clear cut for President Weah. I think an opposition is going to win it. I think the opposition in the end, whoever goes to the second round will do Liberia justice by putting all their forces together and getting rid of President Weah. That's my opinion.
And which of the opposition do you think is going to go into that second round based on what you've seen so far?
So hypothetically, and we cannot ignore that there is and let me just say this as a caveat. There is a crowd factor that we must not ignore. Cummings has a crowd, Gonglo has a crowd, everybody that have had rallies, we've seen people. But you cannot ignore that the crowd factor behind Ambassador Boyka is huge. No one in a right frame of mind, even myself being an independent, cannot ignore that the people, and like some of the UP people will say, oh, the people have resolved. That's for UPs to say that. I'm not going to say that they resolved. I'm going to say that the constraints on which those people went out on Sunday speaks enough volume to who we think has the upper momentum at this time. So if Honorable Boyka goes to the second round and is from the opposition, he's going to win. If Cummings goes, he's going to win. I'm saying that whoever goes, because right now it's not clear cut. There's the first round is not a clear thing. This thing what we're hearing people saying, oh, one round. Somebody is in oblivion to think that it's clear. It's not clear for anybody. So it's still a tight race.
Thank you. Very tight race indeed. Ladies and gentlemen, this is Friday night debate, and aspiration is different from reality on the ground. I want to ask all of you, what is that litmus test? What is the thing exactly that you're looking at? Let me start with Mr. Mame. You talk about the World Bank report. Is that what the Liberian people are reading? What is it what is your litmus test that this person is going to win? And let me throw a few things out there. Many are talking about campaign momentum, the money, the war chest, and whose message is resonating, and how are we feeling that reaction from the people that is making us to say, yes, on October 10th, this person is going to win. Let me start with Mr. Ambula.
Brother Ja, the thing is, the ordinary people in Liberia, they're not really reading the World Bank report. They are living the reality of the World Bank report. Mm-hmm. So they're not really one year reading. The people there living the reality. When you talk about Liberia being among the 10 countries as being one of the worst places to bear a child.
Let me interrupt you. To what extent are they attributing that reality they are living to President Weah instead of Mr. Boyka or somebody else?
Come again.
To what extent are they attributing that reality to President Weah? Some say, oh, it's Ellen time, it's Boyka who caused it, right?
Oh, yeah. You see, the people from CDC will always attribute it, say, oh, that Ellen time. But like I said, the ordinary people on the ground living the reality of the discussion we're having on the radio and the reports we are reading. So when you say Ellen time about hardship, let's take data call, for example. During Ellen time, the people had 3-day free call. If you were putting $1 in your phone every 3 days, at the end of the year, you will have spent $608. Today, the 3-day free call canceled. So you're spending $5 every week on scratch card. You have to be cutting your phone off and putting the bar on for that inconvenience. If you don't want that inconvenience, at $5 per day, 52 weeks, at 25 and 52 weeks, at $1,830. The people live in the reality. So when we're talking about the place being bad place for women to give birth, people are experiencing what we call maternal detention in Liberia. They go give birth, they keep them in the hospital until they pay their bills. Some of them coming outside with their children 2 months old. Mm-hmm. That maternal detention. They live in those realities. So they're not reading reports. When you're talking about schools being dilapidated, kids are sitting on the floor. You saw the picture from the University of Liberia.
Right, I see that. So what's the litmus test for Councillor Gonglo that is going to win it? What is it that proven to you that the citizens are going towards Councillor Gonglo?
2 things. 1, their desperate desire for change is the litmus test. The people want change. When Councillor Gonglo walks to villages, the feedback he gets from the people, it shows their connectedness and their readiness for change. Our only hope, you're talking about litmus test, our only hope of Councillor Gonglo's winning the election is the people's commitment and readiness for change.
Thank you.
Sieh, they've expressed it publicly. They've expressed it privately, and we know that the change they want is what Councillor Gongo represents.
Thank you. Mr. Dolake, what is it that is actually telling you that Mr. Cummings is going to win this? How does any failure of President Weah translate into Cummings inheriting those votes?
Firstly, the realities are quite clear. I mean, for all indications, I mean, even approaching the October 10 elections, the discovery of drugs, in particular, emphasizing drugs because I visited my hometown before coming to the US, and I saw people complaining of what the young people were doing in the town that was not usual of what a town used to be. People are gambling. And so this drug factor is directly affecting the ordinary people. And that's why the people are annoyed because our children are not conducting themselves as they used to be. And under President Weah watch, the escalation is too huge. And so combined with the poor economy and its performance that President Weah had not been able to address. All
Right.
these things, not forgetting the issue of the CTN that we have no understanding what they call it, the continuous tracking number that is believed to be going only in President Weah pockets and the manager of Freeport. These are situations that bring unbearable force on ordinary Liberians.
Right. And I
And
get that
as
part. So what
Mhm.
would take them to Cummings and not Bwaka, Gonglo, Moniba, everybody else?
And so what will take them to Mr. Cummings out of any other candidates is the way Mr. Cummings has propounded on the solution to getting Liberia, giving Liberia that hope. And what are the indicators that he has pointed to so far? Like many will say, he has emphasized repeatedly that until we get rid of corruption, or we take drastic stand against corruption and redeploy our resources to venture that will bring about growth, we'll be spinning our wheels in neutral gear. And there where President Weah sits. And because President Weah is unable to deal with this situation, ranging from the escalation of riots that people were protesting, he said there was street talk, ranging to the importation of drugs that that no action have been taken so far. Liberians are yearning for hope, and those leaders who are speaking to Liberians on the basis of hope that Mr. Cummings are the ones Liberians are going to get attracted to, and Mr. Cummings is no exception to that, and a movement of people who want change.
So how are we feeling it now that they are going to Cummings? What can you show me that tells me that the people are moving away from Weah and going to Mr. Cummings?
So one of the ways to show to you that people are moving from President Weah is that it's a natural outburst of people. You have seen people who are sedition, once calling themselves, now calling themselves former seditions. You are saying that President Weah, who won 14 out of 15 counties, is naturally boo, and for all of those things that we have listed. And it is quite clear by Weah's own performance. I mean, like I said, a few days to election to be discovering drugs and all of the reporting relating to drugs, it just demonstrates that Liberians are just fed up. And the way they moved to Mr. Cummings is because Mr. Cummings had demonstrated over the period of time that indeed he stand against corruption. He had demonstrated that indeed he need a government that will be inclusive of everyone. He had demonstrated that indeed we need to have the issue of accountability. And so those are indicators that points to Mr. Cummings. And so I would like to say that we appreciate President Weah. We love him as a Liberian, but we just believe that the management of our country cannot be sacrificed for President Weah's happiness. That is
Thank
just
you.
uncooked.
Thank you. Glendy, has people, or as you described President Weah's failure, and people are moving away from him, where are they going? Cummings? Gonglo?
I think that people know. I think that people have the evidence that they need. That staying with Weah will not be better.
So where are they going?
So whoever offers a better alternative,
and who's offering that?
Any one of them could be offering. Like, I mean, we have a lot of people here. We have people here for Brighter. We have people here for Cummings. We have Gonglobe. We probably don't have anybody for Moneybar, but any one of those people may be offering a better alternative, because when you look back at their record, they don't have a record that matches Weah, but they probably are going to do a better job than what he's doing. Why would I want to continue to stay with someone who's not offering me better? For the Liberian people, for some of the Liberian people, we are not offering them better. We talk about the drugs. Now, so much to the fact that we're even attaching the drugs, making it look like it's a fun thing. One week we say it's moringa tea. The next week we see Lipton tea coming in the country. It's a total mockery of the system. You have people Mommy talk about the health care. I read a story not too long ago on Facebook where somebody died. A young mother died because when she went to have the baby, she didn't have the money. And so by the time she got somebody to pay the money when they did the surgery, she died and left a young child. There's so many things that people have to look and see. If John Brown comes and John Brown say, I'm going to do better, then because I'm at a point of hopelessness, I'm going to put my hope in John Brown, because where I am now is not better. It's just that simple. Anything better than we have for some people is what's going to happen. But why would they say that? They will say that based on what his record is now. This election is totally about what President Weah has done. How looking at Liberians and see what does our society look like now? What has declined? What has improved? It's strictly about his record. Some people won't see it, but the ordinary person will see it. And anything other than what they're having now, with the difficulties they're having, will be better than a Weah government in the second term.
Thank you. Let me welcome Mr. Rushford Manaswa Collison, who supports Mr. Wakai. Mr. Collison, is there anything that we can look at that things are going Wakai's way? What are some of the things that show you that Wakai is going to win this? Tell me. I mean, Weah's failure is not enough. They can leave Weah and go somewhere else. Show me how they are going Wakai's way.
Is that a question for me?
Yes, sir.
Oh, thank you. Firstly, let me apologize for my late entry into your show. I had a couple of things to take care of, and greetings to all your studio guests. Well, I sat on your show a couple of times before, and I told you that there was a moving dynamics for the change of political leadership in Liberia. And just as my own big sister, Glenna Jenner, had just said a few minutes ago, that no matter what the trajectory of the change of political leadership in Liberia matters, Weah is not the best option for Liberia anymore. But looking at what was a mammoth and a gigantic turnout of the citizens of Liberia all over the country on Sunday, it is a testament to tell the rest of the world that indeed there is a new horizon for a better dispensation to come. We are working assiduously in every aspect, ensuring that indeed that the camp.
Mr. Collison, you are both there. Let me go to Mr. Elvis Morris. Mr. Morris, have you heard what Jonathan and the rest said about people moving away from President Weah because of his failure? Why do you believe otherwise?
Thank you. One of the things that I think would be a deciding factor is people's second choice preference. And what I mean by that is, for example, right? This is just an example. You know, Councilor Gonglo, for example, in Nimba County, a lot of mom people would support him because he's their son, and that would be their first choice. They're voting that first time in the first round. He's going to get a lot of votes. If he doesn't make it to the second round, those people who voted for him, who are their second choice candidate? So if there's a George Weah and a Joseph Boyka in the second round, who's the least offensive to them? Who's the most likable candidate of the two candidates? And that's why I think President Weah getting to the second round, he's a lot of people's second choice. Because people remember 12 long years of Unity Party. They remember they know the assets baggage that Prince Johnson brings to that ticket. Now you have a General Budnicki who by his own testimony sacrificed over 20,000 babies for mystical powers. So people will have to make a choice between, quote unquote, either the lesser of two evils or the least offensive to themselves. So that's why when I made my statement earlier, Mrs. Glendy, I think I said that the optics, just on the appearance of how things are going in this moment, Joseph Boyka seems to have a slight edge in terms of momentum. But like I said, the second round becomes a binary choice. So those who didn't vote for President Weah the first round, or even didn't vote for Boyka the first round, will now have a choice to make. And one of those two are going to get those votes. And I think when it comes to the second, options, a lot more people will pick President Weah. Those who are going for Gungla because he's one of them. Those who are going for Cummings because he has the experience from Coca-Cola and seen as a corporate manager. Those who feel disrespected by the Unity Party, who have been so arrogant and so visceral in their attacks against other opposition people, their second choice option will most likely be President Weah. That's what it's going to boil down to. So the drug issues and Mr. Mohammed talking about statistic, like you rightly said, Mr. John, people in Liberia are not reading World Bank reports. They're not reading where Liberia ranks. Even on that report that he talked about, the HCI, the Human Capital Index, Nigeria is ranked right above us. Are we saying that we're close to Nigeria in terms of human capacity, or or even our economy or our country as a whole? So what does it mean? Rwanda, that we wax poetic about on this platform and other platforms, are only 10 places higher than Liberia. And when we look at Rwanda, we think it's moving to like a second, quote unquote, second world country. So the reality, quoting these statistics as a means that President Weah won't be re-elected because he's performing poorly in these statistical areas is not applicable in the Liberian, context. The reality is people vote on emotions. People sometimes vote on optics. And in these elections, George Weah have an innate love. The people have an innate love for George Weah before he even became president, even became a politician. So those love and those fond memories from him is always going to be deep in their hearts. And those, people are going to always remember that he made them feel happy. He came to them on the refugee camp. He sacrificed a lot for the country. Boyka and the people have 12 years, and they didn't achieve the things that we thought they were going to achieve. And now he want another 6 years to continue the Unity Party government. And most people will say, you know what? I heard one guy say encyclopedia. It takes two to move. Try to get Ellen Johnson a two-term. They will give President Weah his 2-term, and then there's somebody new come and take the leadership of our country. Thank you.
Thank you. Mr. Kamara, a lot of people have been referencing Sunday. And what I saw was in Monrovia alone. And Monrovia is not Liberia. Does Sunday factor in as a test that Mr. Boyka is going to win it? And because of this, we start already to measure the drift.
I admire my son Evans. I wish I was 25 years younger. But anyway. Anyway, look, listen. First, let me touch on the question you asked all of these other people before you go to the Sunday thing. All this testing you're talking about is just simple. The consistency and the support behind Boyka. That's something you should look at, Mr. Jah. Since 2020, almost every opinion poll in the country. Now, some people look at it as insignificant, but I think it's an indicator. Since 2020, almost every opinion poll, not in most of our country, I mean all 15 counties. Favors Joseph.
Opinion poll in Sino?
I said, yeah, they have opinion poll in Sino. Yes.
And Buaka won.
But I said, remember, I said almost. Remember, I said almost all. But here's the thing. What do you want to say? Go ahead.
No, I said, tell me.
Any opinion pool you have heard about from Grand Jita and Grand Crew that Buaka may have won?
We have heard. Listen, let me repeat the English again. You guys from the South, you don't understand English very well. Let me repeat it in English. Almost every opinion poll, underline almost. Don't say that one country. I can't distract me. Now, I don't even know where I was. But so you look at the consistency of these polls, and even in recent times, both of you on this platform can attest. You guys are one of the most seasoned people we know on social media. You can attest to the reality. Now let's look at what has been happening in recent times, just to portray Josiah Yuma Buaka's weight. Everywhere George Weah have gone in that country, Liberia, Joseph Boga goes after. Joseph Boga has the most momentum. In recent time, George Weah goes to Bombay County, gets booed. Joseph Boga goes there, he's hailed. In recent time, all the other political candidates went to Cape Mount County, Bapolu County. Joseph Boga appeared there. You could tell the difference. This is not rocket science. Nimba County, for example, Joseph Boga ended there, you know what can happen. Now you may say, oh, it's just that's crowd politics, that's crowd politics. But you're kidding, because you need crowd to win. A lot of the people talking about something else, whenever they're launching, look at who's coming. That is an indicator whether or not you want to overlook it. If you're just being blind, you're just trying to play blind eyes to the reality. The reality is on the wall. It's glaring. I know Ansony can't wait to push me. The way you're looking, you feel looking. The reality on the ground is glaring that the momentum is on the side of Joseph Boga in the entire country. Not only Liberians are aware. Al Jazeera is aware. BBC is aware. But I know you have to do your job by asking a tough question. Now you are saying that the whole thing, the now Monrovia, I just gave you instances about almost all the other countries that Joseph Boga have gone to. In fact, Grand Bassa County, Joseph Boga doesn't even have to go there. Just one person from the rescue team can turn Grand Bassa County upside down just because of the name Joseph Boga. But you talk about the Sunday factor. The Sunday factor was not on the basis of proving anything to anyone. That Sunday factor was to be considerate of the fact that the country is hard. People have to go around to get the enemy. So since we know that Sunday, by our account, almost everybody is going to stay home. Therefore, let us take this opportunity so as not to block traffic, as not to impede on students and other pedestrians. So it will be easier to do this on Sunday. But let me close by saying this to you, Dennis. If everybody thinks that the crowd that went out on that Sunday was only on the basis of change, and it wasn't because of Joseph Boga, we want to see them. We want to see their own crowd very soon too.
Mr. Gilman, go ahead, Mr. Sieh. I think you have something to say.
Yeah, thank you, Dennis. Aleo,
I
did
know.
the crowd gather for the love of Joseph Boga and the trust in Unity Party, or was it just for them to express themselves about the conditions that they are facing in Liberia?
You know, that whole thing about just to express, this was some of the other opposition candidates and their funders are using to make themselves, gain a little zico. The truth of the matter is, there's one basic reason why the people were over there, they were walking and swimming in dirty water. Simple. Was because they believe the word trust. Let's break it down. I'll take that part in your whole question that I want to take. They believe that at this particular moment in time, Joseph Boga is the only one who they can count on, given that he has a record of deliverables. Joseph Boga is the one they can count on at this time, and therefore they are giving their unwavering support to Joseph Yuma Boga. And I'm telling you this moment, and what you saw will reflect on election day.
Can he talk about the record of deliverables?
That's the same thing I wanted to say. What are the deliverables?
Mr. Gilman, let me come to you.
Jeez.
Mr. Gilman, let me come to you. Mr. Gilman, here's the thing. And this question might be for all the debaters tonight. All right. What is that one thing that will make Liberians to vote in their majority for one of the candidates? And who is that candidate that is strong on that issue?
Thank you. One of the things that I want to maybe admonish most of you here is, if you have not worked on a national or international campaign, you can sit here and say whatever you want to say. And let me point out some of the discrepancy here. When CDC launched,
which campaign is international campaign?
Listen, guys, if you ask me, I'm going to explain. Did you ask me, or you want to interrupt when I'm talking?
No, I just wanted to clarify.
Okay, so we're going to come to that. The question here is, he asked, and I'm telling you, when CDC launched its campaign on a weekday, and when you look at the drone shot of Monrovia and the entire country, you could tell that this man is going to win this election massively. But let me go down to the campaign, okay? What wins campaigns is the organization, the strategy, and the groundwork. Campaigns are not won on launching day or election day. Campaign is won during the process. And we've been telling you guys 2 years ago, I think if you watch OKFM on Wednesday, Kiatama was on there. He says, you can say whatever you want to say in this country. The only organization, political party, that have the largest auxiliary all over the country is the CDC. We take pride in our auxiliary. This is what we talk when we say the groundwork. In every village, in every county, in every hamlet of the country, we have that going. We have the deliverables. Somebody talk about deliverables. Let me talk about Joseph Boyka here. Joseph Boyka have never succeeded in anything he's ever done.
Stick to the question.
Excuse me. The reason why they would pick George Weah over here, Joseph Boyka have failed at everything he was at the helm. He was fired by Doe. He was fired by Sawyer. He failed the Lofa Defense Force. At LPMC, he was fired. LPRC, he was fired. At Agriculture, he failed. At the Unity,
I'm sorry, guys.
Excuse me.
You gotta mute Mr. Kamara. You not interrupt Mr. Gamer.
Excuse me. At the Unity Party, when Ellen Johnson said he left the helm, Joseph Boyka became the leader of the Unity Party, and that failed massively. Couldn't even maintain the headquarters of that office. Twice he was removed, and in fact, being sued for negligence and incompetence. Joseph Boyka have never held anything
for incompetence
that they can say, they can point to all that when he was at the helm. More recently, at the CPP that brought Darrell Dillon to power, that was so powerful, died under Joseph Boyka. The CPP died under Joseph Boyka. Joseph Boyka went on international information and said, when I return to Liberia, we will resolve, I will unite my people. All of these people will come back together and we will work. CPP died under Joseph Boyka. Joseph Boyka have no record of competence and success nowhere ever, and I just need them.
Thank you. Let Mr. Collison respond. Mr. Collison, you're frozen again.
Time.
Yeah. Hey,
you are laughing, but I think Mr. Gimmer is stating some facts here. Well, go ahead. What's your response?
No, he's not stating any facts. Oh. No facts. When you state facts, you must give us something to work with. Joseph Boyka was fired at LPRC. Why? Joseph Boyka's boss came up and said the reason he was fired was a negligence on him, the boss's part, because he was under a certain influence. He was
fired.
It was not because everybody gets fired. I've been fired before. I've been fired for punching somebody in the nose before. But here's the thing. Let me tell you.
You are you're a person of violence. So
okay. all I was all I would say, Mr. Jack, is that this guy entirely avoided the question. He could not answer the question. Yeah. He left the whole question and went somewhere else. I will not waste my time on him because I can split to pieces.
No, but
all
the CPP died under Mr. Buaka. That's a fact.
But it is not a holistic fact.
Okay.
The Joseph Buaka run the CPP all by himself, and there were no colleagues and anything like that. When Joseph Buaka became the head of the CPP, were there already existing or pre-existing issues before Joseph Buaka took over the CPP? When you want to address it, so you got to understand the cause of the
when he took over the government, there will be pre-existing issues, as you said. But go
exactly. No. Let's make this
some
clear.
of the pre-existing issue. One other fact Mr. Gaiman mentioned is that Mr. Buaka was on the VOA when he said, "When I return tomorrow,
that wasn't a
pre-existing the internal issue. Wranglings." I will give you a chance, Mr. Kamara. He said the internal wranglings in the CPP will be resolved. That was a leader making a vow to the entire world.
And what does that tell you?
And that CPP disintegrated on his hands.
What does that tell you? That tells you that he really wanted to work. Let me tell you something. If you are working with 3 or 4 people, and there's somebody there who doesn't want to work with you no matter what you do,
who's that?
Go as far as inserting a clause in a document that you are not signatory to, only to get you out because they want to make sure that you are not able to perform. They went as far as putting in health conditions that Joseph Buaka knew nothing of in a very document. Those the conditions that broke the CPP existed. In fact, Yombly Kanga Lawrence and Ellis Cummings and them were already fighting before Joseph Buaka took over. The damage was already done. It's like cancer. It's in your body.
He knew about the damage, and he promised.
Let me learn. The damage was already like you got cancer. Suffolk, for example. It starts easy. It gets to a point where there's nothing you can do. The doctor will just tell you you got 6 months to live. That's how CPP was. Yeah, Joseph Buaka takes the blame. But remember, Ellis Cummings is on record on other networks saying that he also took responsibility for the breaking down of the CPP. Do you guys remember that as well?
Yeah, that is true. He showed responsibility. He expressed that. Thank you very much, Mr. Kamara. Another fact Mr. Gaiman stated, when Joseph Buaka took over the Unity Party, the likes of Mo Ali and Weah Page insulted Ellen Johnson Sirleaf. That helped to disintegrate the Unity Party. Do you let me
respond to that quick. Let me respond to that because we have audience here. We have audience here. And when we're speaking these things, we must speak it from the basis of clear understanding. With Mo Ali, who is in his 40s, decides to insult someone, you can't go to his party chairman who is party chairman responsible. It's not his father. If Weah Pay decides to, in fact, Weah Pay insulted Joseph Buaka. Did you hear that insult? Weah Pay insulted Joseph Buaka for a brain down. Joseph Buaka still brought him back to the Unity Party and is supporting him now to be senator. So when you say the party disintegrated, the Unity Party under Joseph Buaka has formed more alliance than at any time in the history of the Unity Party.
We have alliances. Why are some of the alliances? What? Why are some of the alliances you have?
But where is this man? We have the
help, Prince Johnson.
Hold on, I'm coming. You guys keep distracting me, okay? we're talking about the infamous DAL, right? All of the political parties that were in that DAL, with the exception of what's this guy named from Nimba County who said he's running for president, who got only 2 people supporting him, or what's his name? Dr. something. All right? Dr. Gompu. Everybody else is with Joe Buaka. That is the largest ever in the history of the Unity Party. And then you say the Unity Party disintegrated because 4 people or 5 people left. So the whole Unity Party disintegrated. Remember, the Unity Party is an institution. Even with the absence of Ellen Johnson Sirleaf behind Joe Buaka, the Unity Party came close to winning the election. It still came 2nd place.
Thank you, Mr. Kamara. I agree with you on this one. We must give Mr. Buaka some credit. He managed to bring Prince Johnson on board. and the
That
MDR.
your business.
Thank you so very much. Dennis?
But can I say one thing for a quick second? The MDR and the Unity Party are not in official collaboration. So let's clarify that on this platform.
That's an alliance. There's a difference.
Right. Well,
Collaboration and alliance, they are synonymous.
at this time, I
It's
know.
through the merger that separates them. So
Yeah.
they can be in alliance or
Hold on,
collaboration.
ladies and gentlemen.
So, Dennis, I really wanted to follow up with Mr.
Hold
Ali.
on, Mr. Dulake, I want to give you. Mr. Dulake, I want to give you some chance to respond. And
Everybody
even
is
if you
calling
have
Mr.
questions,
Kamara, but Winter, don't call me Mr. Kamara. Just call me Ali.
Okay, Ali.
hold on, ladies and gentlemen. Hold on.
Yeah.
Why am I having an echo?
Because you won't give a chance.
Go ahead, Dennis.
Sorry. At this time, I want to open the floor for questions. If you have questions for other panelists, Glendy, you have a question?
So, Ali talked about Mo Ali, and I want to go back there because I think when we speak, with the close alliance with Mo Ali and the Unity Party, one has to be careful when they speak out there. Everybody will connect Mo Ali to Joseph Boyka. So when you're saying and Mo Ali, that also needs to like there, everything is out there right now about Mrs. Cummings. And the fact that Mrs. Cummings made a statement about people being on her son. So people are equating Mrs. Cummings' statement, taking her out of her own persona and adding it to the fact that she's a candidate's wife. And the reaction now, whether she said it or didn't say it, I don't know that whether that's true. Mo Ali now, who is Secretary General before, and who also is the spokesperson for UP, how can we now say when he speaks, we should look at him as Mo Ali and not as his alliance with Joe Boyka? How can we separate that?
Okay, first of all, let me clear something. I don't have any record of Mo Ali insulting Alan Johnson Sirleaf. I was only answering the question based on how it was posed. There is no record anywhere of Mo Ali insulting Alan Johnson Sirleaf. But let me just say this, okay? Who sent Mo Ali to school in London? Alan Johnson Sirleaf, not Joe Boyka. Who brought Mo Ali in the front of the Unity Party? Alan Johnson Sirleaf, not Joe Boyka. Why are they not linking Mo Ali to Ellen, but they're linking him to Boyka? Why is that?
No, but I want you to speak specifically to your response. You are saying when Mo Ali and Pierre speak, people should take them out of the fact that they are connected to Unity Party.
But you're comparing apples. You're comparing apples and oranges. You said Mrs. Cummings. Hold on, John. You said Mrs. Cummings. Remember, Mrs. Cummings. Mrs. Cummings falls under Mr. Cummings. They are one. Mo Ali. I'm coming now. A man and his wife will be tied together under any circumstance. You say Mo Ali, Ali, and you get Boyka. And Mo Ali does something. You want Boyka to be responsible because they all work in the same institution. And that's not how.
I'm not saying Boyka should
hold on now. I don't want it to be a dialogue. Let me go to Jonathan.
We will do our dialogue behind the scene.
Jonathan, there is this constant thing about Mr. Cummings not getting traction. That he has put in the first campaign, he used like $1 million or more, and he did not get the result. In this, now the major criticism against Mr. Cummings is that he's not getting traction. They don't see the momentum building just like it's building or what they saw on Sunday. What can you tell us about Mr. Cummings not getting traction? Is that something that you want to argue on the opposite?
First, I can argue these things on the history. And I like to be very clear when I speak about it.
It's very low.
I'm hearing him.
Okay.
Am I loud? Am I loud now?
Yes, go ahead.
Okay, you're right now.
Yeah, so like I said, I speak on these issues from the position of history. So when Mr. Cummings came into the election 2017, 18 months to election, there was no way Nothing whatsoever that could be used as a determinant or as an indicator to justify that Mr. Cummings will come third place over traditional political parties, especially in Mansurado County, Woodbridge County. It took serious work that we did over time, and he came third over Liberty
So
Party
compared to
that was
now,
known
he's
to be a
better. Is that what you are
traditional
saying?
political party.
He is.
Yes, compared to now, after 6 years, it's better because it's a grassroots movement. But I'd like to, if that's the only question you have for me, and you think that I've answered it, I'd like to make some correction to something that was said here, because this platform is meant to educate. I listened to Mr. Gilmer when he came up about with the international campaigning that he could not, verify, like CDC, Molu saying, EJ Raw, our
That's given
Nigeria,
for you.
Excuse me,
just to
I can
confirm
clarify
what we
that
do.
right now for
Yeah,
you.
Hold on, Mr.
tell me,
Gamer.
I
Let
asked you
him
for
finish.
clarification.
No, you say
No,
No,
Mr. Gamer, let him finish.
no,
Mr. Gamer, let him
no.
talk. Go ahead, Jonathan.
So, talking about international campaign, and it's just like when Molu, they were trying to defend Wabodiki to become election commission chair 2020, and it went as far as saying that EJ Raw was Nigerian, when Nigeria did not exist as a country when EJ Raw was president. So you say these kind of things to intelligent people, it doesn't offer well. Let me say again, Mr. Tobert Genswa was on record today. And these are not political things that we say. Not because I'm not for George Weah, so I just go about being ballistic, or not for Buaka. Mr. Tobert Genswa said on the record the number of ministerial institutions that Buaka headed and millions of dollars that came into the country. He also went as far as talking about Mr. Cummings. Some of the things he did during the Ebola time. He spoke well about Councillor Gonglo. So, like we have seen, President Weah is just a bad dream that people wish that it would have been better, because he was never a president, thinking that there will be hope out of the process of his presidency. My question here that I want to ask all of you here is that when has President Weah taken responsibility? Because I listen to say Mr. Cummings took responsibility of the CPP, Ambassador Buaga took responsibility of the CPP. When has President Weah ever taken responsibility of some of the things that are happening in our country and putting our country in bad shape?
Yeah, I can answer something. I can answer one thing.
Go ahead.
It's a simple thing. I mean, I can think of others, but just a simple thing that comes to mind. For example, the SKD Stadium. When it was condemned, the president put resources into the stadium, and he brought it up to par. And even team like Sierra Leone, whose stadium itself was also condemned, came to Liberia to play one of their games at the SKD. So he fixed it. The rice prices, when he came back from I think it was the World Cup or wherever he came back from, he was able to stabilize the prices, the price of rice using some subsidies, and he stabilized the price, and things came back under control. Say that
Mr.
again.
Morris, he was talking about taking responsibility. Did he take responsibility that he caused the
I mean,
issue?
if you no, 1 second, Mr. Jai. If you want somebody to say, "Oh, hold on, Mr. Dolake," if you want the president to be like Ellen Johnson Sirleaf by saying, "I take responsibility for the money that my son stole," but don't restitute the money, don't do anything about it, then fine. He never said he took responsibility. But also taking responsibility is taking actions to rectify the situation, which I think the president has done on numerous occasions. So thank you. I'll leave it there.
As Mr. Weah taking any responsibility of failures.
If Ellen stole money and you didn't prosecute, you are wrong too.
My point is, when she said, "I take responsibility for my son," bankrupting Local, what did she do to rectify it? What did she do to?
That's not
what she said.
That's not what she said.
She said she took responsibility for his mismanagement of Local. She said that. How can we forget so quickly? What action did she take to rectify the fact that her son squandered money from the National Oil Company of Liberia? President Weah, he's not his style. He's not going to come out here and say, He took action for this, that, and that. Well, he's going to take actions to fix it. He's going to take actions to fix it.
Let me give Mame. Mame, you have any question before then we come to Mr. Collison?
I get a question. I wanted to clarify. I wanted to say a few things. One, when we reference these reports, it's not because Liberian people reading it. Liberian people are living the reality in the country. Students are sitting on the floor. People go to the hospital to deliver, they ask them to buy their own gloves. When they deliver and don't have the money, they keep them there for 2-3 months. They live in those realities. Drugs in the country, you want me to cite drugs statistics? No. People are seeing people butting the lampposts. So they live the reality. But because we cannot bring the reality on the TV show, and sometimes when you raise the issue, some of you argue, so we use these authoritative reports as justification for the reality on the ground. But the people live in the reality. The second thing is, look, Elvis and other people, I've heard it over and over and I've said it. There were institutional corruption at local and other public institutions across the country. One, local did not go bankrupt. That's a blatant lie. Two, Ellen did not take responsibility for anybody stealing at local. Ellen Sirleaf took responsibility for the crisis that were at local. Go and read the press statement.
What was the crisis at local?
Go and read the press statement issued by the executive marshal. The Ministry of Finance had borrowed more than $60 million from local. And they borrowed that money on the instruction of the president. When the company was in crisis, the president said she took responsibility. But it doesn't mean that there was not corruption at local. There was corruption at local. Because President Sirleaf could not prosecute the corruption at local. That is why CDC went and protested at the U.S. Embassy and said they should prosecute and use it as a campaign tool to get elected. So we call on CDC to go and investigate and prosecute people who stole from local. Says here now you can do it.
What's the excuse?
No excuse. Because George,
if you're asking me a question, I'll answer.
George Weah is complicit into what happened at local. Resources were taken from local and used to maintain George Weah from 2014 to 2017 and supported his campaign. When he orders local, they will see the paper trail of resources coming from local to George Weah campaign through Abachier. That's why he can order local. When you order local, you will see people who are close to George Weah today, who he appointed in government position, went on scholarship by George Weah recommendation when he was opposition. That's why he can order local.
He won't.
I get just up. I got ordered the group of 77 that he mismanaged.
Let me bring in Rush.
You can't just make a statement. You gotta have facts.
Mr. Collison, you go and then we're going to bring in our callers.
You see, I'm always unfortunate whenever I try to say something very contributed to the conversation, I will go off because of connectivity. But anyway.
Yeah, Metro PC.
It's a wonderful thing what the product of George Weah, the CDC. Now I got T-Mobile. I tell you in my office now, maybe the network I get to the internet. Anyway, it's a sad thing whenever we are discussing this salient issue for our country. Pundits and surrogate of CDC or Mr. Weah come to this medium or to this media to defend his cause. And the fun thing about it is that I was taught in 11th grade at an institution, it's a little shadow of one man. A quotation for Alexander Pope. President Weah is the executive president of the Republic of Liberia. No other person is the president. He has that authority and responsibility to make sure the Constitution, the laws of Liberia are upheld. If you took away a country that was no money in the central bank, if you took away a country that was money being squandered from public corporations, if you took away a country that was continued money fled the country, it grew legs and walked away. If you took away a country that were in his Minister of State, the Solicitor General, the Port Director had been sanctioned by the Treasury Department. And all these things have happened under administration. And he had done nothing, he's complicit. If you take away a country that drugs is filtering into our society, getting our youth
he's doing nothing to apprehend and persecute, he's complicit. So stop making an issue of defending Mr. Weah when he has that executive responsibility that none of you here can defend. The records are there. Man, I tell you, challenge him and tell him, you will free my son because you know exactly how we spend the container money. President Weah did nothing. Nothing. He extracted the department, told him, these are officials. They have studied and transferred money to anti-smuggling. He has done nothing. So why you put up on the kind of station, the kind of network to defend the president? And all he does is allow people to take the fire with a hand, take the coal for the fire pot and give it to him. Just stop that. We all want better for Liberia. And yet, when you go to bed in the night, your conscience tell you the person we have feared the Liberian people. You know that. We can't understand. So I beg you, Gamer, I beg you, Elvis, don't let posterity judge you people. Because you sure will. We ain't got nothing. We doesn't have a political capital. He cannot procure for government, for administration. So he doesn't care. You guys got a better need to come and defend a character that's indefensible. Just stop that. Stop that.
Mr. Gamer, yeah.
So Mr. Gamer,
you want a better.
Mr. Collison.
Just stop that.
I'm with you.
Don't wait,
Mr. Collison. Thank you. Ladies and gentlemen, if you are just joining us, this is Friday Night Debate, and if you want to be part of the conversation, please call the number 605-313-6004.
Then let me say one thing quickly.
403 pound. Mr. Collison, I heard all you got, all of what you have said. How is JNB better? And why would make people to leave Weah and join JNB?
One very thing, we know in every democratic society, the issue of power control rests in the hands of the presidency. Every vice president is just like a messenger. That's one. All right? So JNB was a messenger in the position of a vice president. We have the executive authority as Madam Salif to make policy, shape policy, and implement policy on behalf of the country. He's not doing so. So, if we go back to Mr. Boakai, I bet anybody on the platform here to come up with a piece of document. They said these are the malfeasance, corruption of Mr. Boakai over a year in government. So he will become better because he had told the rest of the world Liberian people who turned out in the rain on Sunday that he will rescue the country. He will become better when you have that executive authority.
Boakai never spoke. Boakai never spoke. So how did he say that?
Besides Mr. Boakai, anybody else on that list of presidential candidates will do better for Liberia than Mr. George Weah. He's a mess. He's an embarrassment to our country.
Thank you. Thank you. Let me give Mr. Gaiman 1 minute before I bring in our first caller. Mr. Gaiman, 1 minute for your response.
It's so comical that this man would say few weeks ago, George Weah and his supporters were in the rain, and they said, "Oh, look at George Weah of the old days. He wouldn't be in the rain." They were talking to the people. They were denigrating George Weah being in the rain. Now they are taking credit for Boakai being in the rain. Boakai went to his own luncheon. He never spoke. Nobody can give you a script of what Joseph Boakai said. And that what did he say to the folks? Nothing. Now he's talking about Joseph Boakai never been fired or don't have any record. I just told you there are printed records that Joseph Boakai was fired for incompetence and corruption. You want to gloss over that, but that's fine. Excuse me. Mr. Collison, you are talking to Mr. Sieh, you are talking to Mr. Jar. These are people who are custodians of record. If you challenge them, they will pull out the.
No, it's challenging you. They're not challenging Jar. It's challenging you.
No, because we know if the record is there, they have it in the archive. They will pull it up, so I don't have to worry.
No, you the one saying.
Yeah,
You the one saying it. Why you want?
Are you
You
guys
want to run away and pull on them?
Thank you. Let me bring in our colors.
This is what desperate people do.
No, but in all fairness, there was, because I also had a question about Ambassador Boyka's
Okay,
speech
let
on Sunday,
it
and it
pause.
was
We'll answer
posted.
your question later.
Hold on, it was posted all over J-Room. What his
What
message
is it?
was.
What is topic?
I know this.
You what?
All right.
You
Hold on.
didn't read it?
Let me bring in our colors. The callers are waiting. People want to call and join you. So our first caller here is Vincent Kier.
Hey, Mr.
Go ahead, you are live.
Mr. Jar, thank you so much. Mr. Jar, thank you so much for the show. You know, I followed the show since you started the show. I've been watching you guys, and I always love to follow the show. Thank you so much. You know, we Liberians got to be sincere. The issue about Liberia is not corruption. The issue is sincerity and be committed to the truth. That's the problem in Liberia. Look, I'm asking you the word man. Mame, you do not have no integrity. You should be man enough to stand even on Satan and tell you a smoke. You know this. When you been on the show all day, you have not stood even here and say a war. The same way you're corrupt, in your own work that you're working, the area you're working, you're corrupt.
Personal attack.
Working, you got corruption was fought against your working Europe. You never went for audit.
Which one now? Vincent.
I talk about Monday. Where you work?
Where? Where was that?
Okay.
The year you're working.
Where he was working?
There was corruption from. And you talk about Eddie saying that because he didn't bring it up. She said, I didn't bring for look at big corrupt, look at big Ben Rock. And first of all, you talk about I call it Moali, they came out on behalf of Unity Party and made a statement. It was not individual. They made a statement as Unity Party.
Which statement?
They made a statement individual. They make it as a Unity Party.
Which statement?
Statement that they made against former President Ellie.
What was it?
During your birthday, the statement made when he started off, it was on birthday, the Unity Party people came out and made a statement. It was not individual.
Let's
they were not individual. And first of all, look.
And they expelled her during that time too.
The country, during the regime, there was 4 different kind of drugs that went in our country. Do you know why Ellie made it all me to stay in our country until she left on power? It's not because of war coming in the country. It's because she was there. The army was there to help her all to become backup for government. In our country, there were having a lot of people working in our government that have family members they were supporting. That's what made the economy a little bit sorry. And apart from that, the Unity Party, all those are in the government. That time, they were not even living on a salary. They were living on the corruption money they were making. Every one there, they were not even taking a salary. Every month, they got extra money. They got gasoline, 5 pieces of gasoline.
Thank you.
They got a trash car coming in the pocket. And those things are not coming.
Thank you.
All they see is talking about corporate suffering. These ideas are going on. There's nobody going on. Look at all this.
Vincent.
All the government facing it.
Vincent.
The government facing it.
Vincent.
They get other callers on the line.
You made a charge against Mame, so you want 1 minute to respond. Just stay on the line.
No, and I'm responding. I just want to ask him one question quick.
They said they're not good. They usually forgo. They print your name. What you can't
Question. One question for him, please.
All right.
For them.
Okay, Vincent. Go ahead, man.
Vincent, one question. Have you seen me on Spoon Show? When was the last time you saw me there?
Did you ask me a question?
Yeah.
You were there.
Yeah, you're there. I think earlier this week you were there.
Hold on, Evans.
Have you seen me there?
I said yes.
Good. So I'm there because you always there to watch the show. That's why I go there. I go there because people like you tune into watch.
Thank you, Vincent. Thank you, Vincent. Thank you.
I don't know why
Thank you, Vincent. Let me bring in the next caller. Thank you. Mr. Flomo Livingston, go ahead.
Yeah, thank you, Mr. John. A great show. you know, I mean, my only problem I have is, no, guys, let's talk about the Prince Johnson thing, man. That's an old story. No, Prince Johnson supported Eddie. Oh, that time Prince Johnson was not a warlord, right? So he supported the same George we are today. He was not a warlord.
Prince Johnson been warlord.
Joseph Brocker now,
Prince Johnson been a warlord, a former warlord.
But then, okay, I agree. My point is why you guys having problem with him supporting Joseph Brocker now? I don't see no problem wrong with that. Look, the sedition, the guy that running on CDC ticket in Lima County, Roland Do, a mass murder in Lofa County, on Lofa Development. That man is a mass murder. He's running on CDC ticket, but I don't see you guys talking about it. His only killing is different from Prince Johnson. So we need to stop this. I want for George Weah to drive from Monterrey to the southeast by road, so he can enjoy the coastal highway he built in the southeast. So he can enjoy driving. So we are, he's a barrel medicine, so he can enjoy the coastal highway. So we have all the promises he made to the reform. The 6,000 teachers in line. The Low Star Airline, the one that ate a cake, up to today the cake, you can see the real plane. Look,
that boy got drive to Lofa County to go run campaign too. That was here.
No, but let me end my story now.
Okay.
Look, let me end my thought. Look, George Weah hasn't completed the Banga to Monokuma Highway in Lofa County. That they were already, the ground was already breaking. That project will be completed in 2 years, and up to now the machines are packed in Lofa County that it has not been completed. So Weah is not able to complete, to do a job. So he's not able to run our country. There is a failure.
Thank you.
Everything you put hands in, fail.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you. Hassan Connor, you are next.
Yeah, how you call it, Dennis, and how you call it, good evening to all your panelists. And I'm happy I thought to see many back on the show. But the dating show here a couple of months back, and you asked if, the Liberal Society is a reflection of the people that's there. And looking at the people.
Hold on. Sorry. Go ahead. There was a. Go ahead now.
Is it me, Dennis?
Yeah, go ahead now. There was a noise in the background. It's good now.
All right, Dennis. So you guys had a show about if the people in Liberia is a reflection of the society, like corruption and stuff like that. It's just me watching people like Aliyu there and Mr. Collison and dress their own devil when it comes to the society. And Mr. Jimmy, I said it, everybody likes their own crook, right? I think it was a senator that said it. So these guys are making excuses when it comes to people that actually murder people, Prince Johnson and butt naked, I was eating human being, and because today we in America or we are distancing ourselves from it and we think it's okay behavior because our own devil. So, we would dance with it. And Costa said it, the old man is willing to dance with the devil just to get the power. So by any means, they're willing to get to it. So and that's the dangerous precedent they're setting. And as far as the election boils down to Joseph Walker and George Weah, George Weah went easily because the party cannot tell CDC anything about corruption, about killing, about roads. They can't really say they can't argue anything. So it's just going to be who more corrupt. Oh, you're more corrupt than me, and they're not pointing the fingers and do what about this and stuff like that. So they move no. So the only alternative is coming. So these guys should start wasting our time and talking about war and economic crime code because nobody cares. I think everybody, family members that died during the war, all the people that were murdered. So Mr. Kamara and all those other people are saying, well, we don't care. We don't care about all the people that want to come because there's going to be no accountability, right?
Thank you.
Joseph Boga not going to walk at war economic crime code with Prince Johnson support. So all the things that were sure, we have to stop fooling our people with these things and stuff like that and try to, So, but that's all I got to say tonight. Thank you for the show again.
Appreciate you. All right. This the other caller dropped out. So, Mr. Collison, let's start with you. Your response.
Well, I want to tell your last caller that it's very sad that he will list names of people who support the war, who have the right to Liberian politics right now to do what they need to do. The Liberian, I've told Mr. George Weah that you set up the truth the war crimes court. They have pleaded with him to settle the war crimes court for Liberia. And because he allowed in bed with very warlords, he's refusing. The Prince Johnson, whoever you call him today, who supported Boyka, whatever candidate, the people told your candidate, Mr. Weah, settle the war crimes court. He complacent again, he cannot do this. Because you know the reason why? The next time I appear on your show, Mr. Jah, on this matter, I will give you a receipt of the first $10,000 Mr. George Weah gave Thomas Yaya Nimle of Model. As a contribution.
When was that?
I mean, Mr. Jah, please push back on this. This is the propaganda that's being from spread on the show.
No, it's not propaganda, Mr. Comey also said it before.
I will produce it for you.
It's on record.
So, and the reason why he cannot get the water court in Liberia, you say what? You have rope her bush. You have rope her bush. So, all I will say to your last caller is that we all want justice for Liberia. But right now, the Liberian people are seeing what they are frustrated. Over Mr. Weah administration, he has done nothing. They want to change. And I will repeat, anybody else on that ticket candidacy for president will do better for Liberia than Mr. George Manuel Weah.
All right, thank you.
Can I respond to Mr. Collison, please, Mr. Jah?
Hold on, before you come, let me take one more caller.
Do better for Liberia.
Thank you, Mr. Collison. Let me take one more caller. Call out your name and where you're calling from.
Good evening, Mr. Jah. I'm Tia. I'm calling from Canada.
Thanks for calling, Tia. Go ahead. You're live.
So, Mr. Gay was talking about Joseph Boakai not giving a speech at his rally. George Weah doesn't even attend presidential debates. We don't know him for that. So when it comes to people that can talk, he is a second-class bobo. You don't sit on a show like this and discredit other people that can talk, where you have a president who cannot even construct anything. That's the first thing.
He just talked at the UN.
When President Hello.
Yeah, I'm muting them. Go ahead.
When President Weah became the president of Liberia, he got the opportunity, the power, and the authority to make a change. And since he has been there, he has been the president. Now we expect people like Elvis and Mr. Gay to point to tangible things he has done that people are supposed to retain him for as the president. At this point, it is not about pointing or pointing fingers to other people and attacking other candidates' personality. And that is just, they are doing that just because they cannot point to things that you can tell us Weah has done. So Weah is a failure. He is a nightmare. And when young people like Elvis is sitting on that show and talking about those things he's talking about, is a total and absolute disappointment. Let him start telling us why we should re-elect George Weah and stop attacking other people's personality. Thank you, sir.
Thank you. Thanks for calling. Elvis.
Thank you, Mr. Jah. And I will combine the last caller and Mr. Collison when I'm making this statement. Look, for respect's sake, I'm not going to say it the way I want to say it. But people like you who think no, I say nothing here. I'm going to be very measured. When people like you who think they know better and can try to bully us on, for being on the wrong side of history, and posterity would judge us for supporting President Weah. Say that to the almost 600,000 Liberians who voted for him. Say that to the almost 500,000 or 600,000 again who will vote for him. Say it to them. You come to somebody like me and tell me and have strong words for me. I shouldn't support Weah. It looks bad on me, or it looks bad on me and Mr. Gilman. Look, you don't say anything against Prince Johnson for supporting your man Boyka. You don't say anything against him, who killed people in Liberia, who murder people in that country. You don't say anything. I've never murdered anybody before. I've never even been arrested in my whole life. I've never been to jail. I've never done anything. or you'll come to me and say because I'm speaking against your political leader. I'm a young man, but I'm not somebody who's going to be, cajoled into thinking one way. I have a free mind. I want to school in this country. I can articulate and I can express myself very well. So please don't give me the lecture because you think you have some sway in terms of age that I will listen to you and abide by the way you want me to think politically. I have my own mind. And that lady who was saying that thing, age don't mean anything in politics. People have their persuasion, their political persuasion, and they follow it. Nobody is going to kind of tell anybody on this platform how to group think and think that everybody in America should think one way. I support George Weah for the presidency. I have since 2017, and I will support him again this time around. Nobody can stop me from supporting George Weah, regardless of my age or where I come from or how I look. I support the president. Thank you very much.
Thank you. Well,
and thank you, Mr. Morris, and I apologize for any other indifference you felt of our presentation. It was not meant to demean your own support, but just meant to say that we know we should have a better reflection. I apologize for any difference we said about it.
Apology accepted. Thank you.
Thank you. Mr. Sieh.
Thank you, Dennis. At this time, we will get closing argument from all the debaters tonight. Time is fast spent. We have 15 minutes left in this debate. We will start with Mr.
Let me quickly announce that tomorrow at 12 noon, veteran journalist Priscilla J. Nyinato will be in the house with the media coordinator of the GMB team, that's the Sage, Robert Monsieur Pade. You don't want to miss that. We're going to talk everything about the campaign and what a GNB presidency will look like. How are they doing? Join us tomorrow at 12 noon Eastern, right here on Focus on Liberia. Mr. Sieh.
Thank you. Mr. Collison, your closing argument?
Mr. Collison, if you can adjust your camera a little bit so we can see your passport.
You better?
Thank you.
Yeah, we can see your 6-pack now. Go ahead.
Yeah. Thank you very much. I'm working on it. I apologize initially. I was not for the onset of your opening, but from what I read from your intro, you got to discuss the issue of Mr. Weah at the United Nations speech as well. Just last night, one of his pundits, Maritime Commissioner Len Nangbe, referred to me on another side as functionally illiterate. When I said that Mr. Weah was an embarrassment on the stage of lying to the international community on the Sustainable Development Goal. And I told Mr. Langbe, and I want the audience to know that I have a better education, competence, and qualification from the 64-man delegation on that team at the United Nations, from the president down. And I challenge you to a debate that I'm a doctorate holder in sustainability education, and I know what a sustainable development is. So if he wants to tell me that what Mr. Weah was saying was accurate for Liberia, I challenge Mr. Len Nangbe to a debate. So our listening audience who's following the debate, following the campaign, I will continue to say that Mr. Joseph Jiman Boga is a better option for leadership for Liberia.
Thank you.
Other than that, other panelists will do that justice. It's about time that you leave political office. So I will clean my time for another day. Thank you all.
Thank you. Mr. Mohammed, your closing.
My closing comment, I will state for the record that President Weah failed. His people should be able to take responsibility. You lead a country for 6 years. You talk about education, you talk about WAEC fees. You don't talk about teachers because the 6,000 teachers from Nigeria did not come. So you're not proud to talk about it. And you have not trained additional ones. You can't talk about schools that you built because you build more houses for yourself than you build schools for the entire country. You can't talk about learning outcome because enrollment has decreased and human capital has decreased. You can't talk about health. When you go to health, you talk about building 14 military hospitals. When the contractor for the hospital is directly linked to you, when you are using infrastructure as a pathway to get money back to you under the disguise of constructing infrastructure for people, you can't talk about health. Your country is among the 10 countries in the world where it is the most dangerous place for women to bear their children. Then you go stand on world stage and say you improve maternal mortality. The data on maternal mortality stops at 2020. We're in 2023. What's wrong with you? The people are suffering. Drugs taking over the country. And even if you're not involved in the drugs, if you're not benefiting, why can't you speak? Why can't you express righteous anger that people are destroying the future of other people's children? You're silent. There are recordings of the head of DEA negotiating drugs. Verified recordings. You can't take action. What's wrong with you? So when Liberians are going to vote, like Elvis said, they'll be voting on the sentiments. They'll not be voting on the data points to call in here. They'll not be voting on refugee life because that's over 20, 30 years. They'll be voting on the reality. It is because of that refugee life that they elected you as president so you can use the resources of the country to improve their life. But you use the resources of the country to go spend 40 days on safari. You use the resources of the country to build horse and ride private jet. You allow other people to steal from the state or taking action against them, even though you promise to come and fight corruption. That's why those are the sentiments that people will be voting against. And that's why I will say here to you, Elvis and other people, I listen to you, you go to a Spoon show, You yourself ever saw me on the show. The caller who called saw me on the show. I was there today. I'm there because you people keep going there to watch the show. I'm there because thousands of Liberians keep going there to watch the show. That's why I'm there. I'm not there because of other panelists. If it was because of other panelists, I wouldn't go there. Because the panelists got their own opinions, they got their own views. I want to share opinions. I want to share views for the future of my country. So people who go there to listen, those are the people I go to speak to. Elvis is one of them. You always see me there. And once you go in there to listen to views, I will always be there, Elvis, to talk to you. Thank you.
Thank you.
Mr. Delaka, your closing, please.
Thanks to the entire team. I just like to close by saying President Weah and the PAPD promised us 1 million jobs every year. I don't know to what extent they can point out 2018 and 2019 as to whether we achieved that 1 million jobs prior to COVID coming. And even if COVID came, did that 1 million jobs reduce to 100,000 jobs? I don't know whether there's an indicator. Because if they live up to that commitment of even bringing 500,000 jobs, it means that by this time we'll be importing new technicians to join Liberia because everyone may have had a job at the time based on the governance style. But again, it's zero. President Weah refused deliberately and vehemently to create an avenue for the establishment of the War and Economic Crime Court because he was dining with all war-affaired people. And now people want us to reject those who once supported President Weah to not support other candidates. That argument is flawed, it's misshifted, and it has no bearing whatsoever. Liberians, as long as we have not had War and Economic Crimes Court established for people to be adjudicated, everyone has his or her right to decide which of the candidates they would support. And if they were to support my candidate, you are wholeheartedly welcome. Lastly, on the drugs front, if you all can recall, my dear sister Fina Bono is on record of giving Christmas to disadvantaged youth that have been referred to as Zogos. It was not as a means of redeeming them to rehabilitation home. It was as a means because we were protesting about different things in Liberia to use this underprivileged youth to gang against us. And I know to the record that one of them even created a story about me on Facebook that I pay underprivileged youth in person of one retired fellow who is currently working with the NSA living in Broadville, and I'll call the name later on. But if you see the narrative between disadvantaged youth and drugs, there's a close proximity. And so one has to ask himself why these people were so familiar with Finabodo and used to call her rescue mother. And on Christmas Day, she would give them 5,000, which is direct inducement for you to go get new substance instead of taking them to rehabilitation that DeLong would do. So now these drugs have come out, Dennis. President Weah takes no action. He makes no strong statement. He does nothing. Representatives have been accused of being involved in drugs to the extent that the DA lady went off in the House of Representatives and she could not narrate it properly because of bigger powers. It all say clearly that President Weah is an accomplice of corruption. He's an accomplice of the drug of our children, and there is nothing that we can take as an excuse to it, except that we can go to the pool and elect one of the candidates. And from my angle, it's Mr. Cummings. But I can say lastly, that we will only have a stiff neck election if there's a runoff, provided that runoff is between two opposition leaders. Anything that will indicate that President Weah will be on a ballot against another opposition leader, President Weah will hear the resounding voice of Liberians. And we will not hesitate to defend, support with our blood, sweat, and everything to get President Weah out of our neck. He's embarrassing the image of our country through passport. He's embarrassing the image of our country through corruption. He's embarrassing our country through the image of importation of arms that no action has been taken, ritualistically. Who here to question, who here to sympathize with the 4 auditors today? The 3 missing boys in the whole country. And people come and sit here because democracy has accommodated us to argue.
Mr. Jah, I think you should strongly condemn this man for saying he was supposed to his blood and tears and defend.
Hold on, Mr. Goodman. I want him to clarify what he means.
I do that with my blood. I do that with my sweat. I do that with everything within me to see that President Weah, who has brought all these things on our country image, to be rejected by Liberian people. I take no apology.
How do you do that with your blood? Are you going to fight?
What I'm going to fight? And let me
revert with your blood.
Let me revert to the situation because I hear about fight. I heard that people say Prince Jordan said that if the election is rigged, which is criminal in nature, honor or judicial system are already deemed as almost criminal, and somebody want to talk about the issue of fight, Is that what we say?
Mr. The question was, how are you going to defend with your blood? That's the simple question we are asking.
I'm going to defend with my blood because I will resist President Weah for wrecking an election.
How? How are you going to do it?
Is there an armed struggle?
Unjustified consequences. What you want to tell me? What about protest? What about gathering? What about making sure that the person who wrecked the election will not take seat? Unspecified.
Thank you. Thank you.
Is
that is clear.
The
man said he can't specify how he would do it with his blood.
Thank you. Let me also tell you that this Sunday at 6 p.m. will be Hello Pastor, and our topic, addictions no one talks about. That's cheating, pornography, social media, and gossip. Hello Pastor is on every other Sunday at 6 p.m. with Reverend Dr. Chandler G. Freeman answering some biblical questions. You don't want to miss it. Mr. Elvis, you're closing, sir.
I like the topic.
Please
thank you. Thank you very much. Let me say this. This is the height of political season. You know, everybody knows me on this platform. I'm probably the #1 fan of Focus on Liberia. I love this platform dearly. Whenever it comes on, I stop whatever I'm doing and I turn in. So the people who are an extension of this network are all people I have affection for. and I want to be, respectful and kind to them, and I will expect likewise. Somebody like Dolake, who supposedly is supposed to be the custodian of our democracy, is in a way threatening war, threatening an armed struggle in our country.
I did not threaten
So
war.
for me,
You are not
yes, for me, I don't see it like something where when Prince Johnson says something, then all of us, you know, should take it to be something light. I don't think he can carry out his threats. For sure, I don't think so. But second of all, when Dolake and other people are trying to talk tough, as if to say, if Prince Johnson and the likes of Butt Naked are supporting Joseph Boyka, it means that if something goes wrong, they're going to get in the street to have a protest or
It's
war in
just
our country. They should condemn it. They should condemn it. Yeah,
Mr. Collison, please sit up. We are not seeing your forehead.
George Weah don't have a history of rigging elections. We all know that. So all they're doing is beating war drums. And Dolake on this platform is echoing the same thing. How sure are you that even the CPP is going to support Joseph Boyka in the second round of elections? You don't speak for the CPP directly, do you? Because Cummings has not, he's not vowed to do that. So,
Thank you. Evans, do your
yeah. Lastly, I would just say this. When Mame is talking about this spoon network, for me, it's deeply, even though I come at Mame sometimes, but it's somebody I deeply respect. I'm not going to hide that. I think he's very researchful. He brings a lot of, strong information on the platform, especially when he was on, on Focus on Liberia more consistently. So I respect him. That's why I push back on him, not because I don't like him, but the reality is he's on a discredited network. He knows that. So if you're going to use the numbers to say that's the reason why you're there, then it's almost like you're seeking attention. You rather sell your integrity that you profess, than to sit on a platform that is said about a criminal who has been convicted of a crime or egregious crime. So, Mami, when you say that on this platform, don't try to make yourself look like some kind of celebrity that will follow you to go watch you on a big platform. We're disappointing you because we expected more from you. We expected some integrity from you. That's why I'm saying it, and that's why the other caller said it. We like you. It's not because we don't like you. So for me, I would leave it there. I don't want to take too much, more time. It's been a good show, but I think Mr. Caller saying you guys in the Unity Party are not going to browbeat us into supporting you guys and trying to label us as unpatriotic because we don't support the Unity Party. Every man has his own agency on who he supports politically, and you should respect everybody's own political choice. Thank you for the time, Mr. Jao. Leave it there.
Thank you. Mr. Jerome Goodman, you're closing, sir.
PCS gone off again.
Yes, thank you very much. I think Mr. Golake and the rest of the Unity Party that are threatening war and all that, it shows the signs of desperation. These people, they got the same number that we got. They are losing and they're going to lose bigly, and they're trying to resort to the fear mongering, beating their chest. But I would like to address real quick Mr. Mame here. Mr. Mame, at first, I'd like to listen to some of the things he said. But
Mr. Collins, please adjust your camera.
But Mr. Mame has actually discredited himself that every time he talks, I like to go back and check. For instance, he talked about infant mortality here. He talks about this, and here it says he looked at it.
No. I did not say infant mortality.
Listen, I'm coming to that.
I did not say infant mortality.
You said it is not a place for women. That means we are talking about.
No, I did not say infant mortality.
Listen. Excuse me. I say I'm coming to that. And you also talk about education. Okay. I'm looking at the report here. In the early government, A.B. William, who is
which report are you looking at?
Listen, I'm looking at the work report. But I'm looking at, listen to this. A.B. William, the editor general of the former editor of The Perspective, he held a fundraiser in 2014 to pay money to release women from the hospital in JFK. So for you to sit here and say that the Weah government is holding women or children hostage, this was in your administration. Now, You talk about credibility. Mr. Mohammed, you say you are an advocate against corruption. You work for the most corrupt government. In fact, you work for no car. When I told you to talk about Stanton Waters, you told me it was an indictment. So I came back to you. I said, now that he has pled guilty, why are you still associated with? You said he pled guilty, but you work for the institution. But now you are trying to split hair, my friend. That is a direct indictment on your credibility. But anyhow, that's what it is. Now let's go to why Joe Weah is going to win this election real quick. When we talk about working on the international level, for those of you who don't know, 2016, the Kenyan community contacted me to work with the Gambians, to work with a young man who was in London as a real estate agent that they wanted to make president, Mr. Adama Barrow, in Florida here. And I helped with that campaign. Obviously, everybody knew when I was tapped to work with the re-election of Barack Obama. So when we're talking about this election, one thing I told the Weah people 3 years ago, and I quoted Bill Clinton. He says, if you are a politician and you are in a campaign, there's one thing that they should never do for you. They should never outwork you. And I told the Weah people, you have to outwork your opposition. Don't wait for election time. And they have done that. Everywhere in Liberia that you go, CDC has an accelerator, and you're going to feel it on the day of election. Election is not won on the day of election. And they will not outwork Joe Weah. Joe Weah is going to outwork them. He's going to out-campaign them. He's going to out-speech them. And he's going to outspend them because they have planned in advance. So ladies and gentlemen, when we're talking about why would the president win this election, that is the tangible, the roads, the hospital, the YS, the free education, college, and all of these things. These are tangibles. We are going to win this thing in a landslide, period.
Thank you. And Mr. Gayman, if you don't mind, if you can share the link of that report to
Which
to
one?
the platform.
Which report?
The report you were referencing.
Hold on.
You don't have to do that now.
You did what on Nigeria report.
Let go to another audience.
What he's talking about?
You said there was a report that you were reading.
I got several reports. I'm going to send it to you.
We want our report.
I'm going to send it to you now.
All right. And Mr. Victor, now if he sends it, I'm going to put that on the screen. Let's go to Aliyu. Aliyu, you're closing, sir.
Mr. Kamara, your time.
You got to mute your
Go ahead, Aliyu.
You mute him. Anytime he mutes me, he will have to unmute me. I will not touch the screen. Everybody, I'm the most chastised guy on Focus on Life, brother. They treat me like I'm begging to be on TV. But anyways, look, I gotta say that I always enjoyed being on a platform with Doloka and Ambolai, because these are guys who really doesn't pull the worst out of me, you know? When they come to speak for their respective candidates, they go to the issues, directly to the issues, and on the basis of facts. And that is why, you know, being with them on the stage is useful, it's educational, you know, give and take. Let me just say, with your permission, Dennis, I will send friend request to Blendy, okay? With your permission. Hey, my boy, what's his name? Evans Morris. Yeah, I think you are at a learning curve. You see, the problem here is few things. If you come on a platform and trying to disseminate information to those on the platform with you who have actually lived the information that you are giving only by hearing it or seeing it on social media, then you will be disappointed every time because they know it better than you do. You're only going by hearsay, they say. A lot of the stuff you say are stuff that are not truthful. It's just the stuff that are circulating. And that is the problem. get the facts, know it, ask questions, and then come on a plan. Because the people you're talking to, they now see it. They were living it before it came on social media. I want you to understand that. And when you go to Liberia, Evans, and see your peers in Keke and they're on the Okada for a living, they buy $750, $800. They do work and pay. By the time they finish paying for the motorboat ratting, they can't use it anymore. All day is trying to survive. If you know what they're going through, they're boycotting classes. They cannot go to school because the motorcycle, before they make their report, get food for themselves. And most of them got family. They'd rather just do the motorcycle job and not go to school. You have the opportunity that your parents gave you that their parents don't have. That's why some of the callers will get frustrated when you're speaking for George Weah. The way you're doing is like you are not very open with the realities on the ground. They're only frustrated. Don't get frustrated. It's a learning curve. When you talk about credibility, you're talking, mommy, about credibility. How can you support George Weah, Nathaniel McGee, and others, and then tell somebody they don't have credibility? Now, the whole thing about this Prince Johnson team, my people. Prince Johnson was with George Weah. Prince Johnson was with George Weah throughout. So let me tell you one thing. We were in the party. We're at the party headquarters in 2005 when Prince Johnson came there pretending to have declared support for the CDC. The whole that come out and the whole place went wild. Just because Prince Johnson came into the CDC compound. When Prince Johnson was supporting most of these guys who are speaking now, who are with the ANC now, who were also with the with Unity Party back in the days. When Prince Johnson went to the Unity Party headquarters, the whole place went wild. Today, Prince Johnson support Buckeye. There has to be a war crime code. You didn't talk about war crime code then. It's now you're talking about war crime code. But again, like I said, when I'm dealing with people in local and stuff, I don't want to go to their candidates because I'm only responding to that based on the caller who called the show. But let me just tell you, the records are there that Joseph Boakai has not only lived in Liberia his entire life, Joseph Boakai has worked for Liberia his entire life. Joseph Boakai has dedicated his entire life. He could have been in exile too, flying from place to place. He used all of that to stay in Liberia, even during wartime. Joseph Boakai has, you cannot, look, Mr. Gaiman, putting Joseph Boakai and George Weah in the same boat, I don't know what you're thinking about. Well, look, gentlemen and lady, Glenda, it's a very good show, and I really enjoyed my time here, but then stop blocking me. Everybody interrupted, you don't mute them, only me. Stop that.
I know where Sam Waller is, he will believe you. Okay, let me put the report that Mr. Gaiman sent to me.
Why is it? Is that report credible? Did he search it? Is it authentic? Where is it coming from?
It's from Google. Mr. Gaiman, I just want to be fair to you. That's what you sent to me.
It's from the warbank.org. That's where the link is coming from. Warbank.
So warbank.org says 652 women died per 100,000 live births due to pregnancy-related causes in Liberia. The maternal mortality ratio has improved from 777 in 2000 to 652 in 2020.
It has improved. Thank you. That's what. So when you talk about these things,
that's from 2000.
Listen, it has improved. Period. It has improved. We talked about it.
Didn't I tell you that the data you were referencing started in 2020?
Listen, we are saying we have.
So how can we know if it's gotten worse since 2020? If there's no data to tell you if it got worse.
We in power for 2 years, from 2018 to 2020. 2 years. It improved. It improved.
Thank you. Let's hear. So from 2020 from 2000 to 2020, in the span of 20 years, we moved from 777 to 652. Thank you.
That's correct. And guess what? George Weah didn't put money.
I got it,
Mr.
Mr.
You
Goodman.
wouldn't have even happy.
I
But it
improvement
improved.
immaterial.
No. You cannot say it. Oh, no, you see? You see?
Hold on now, Mr. Goodman. Let's go to Glendy.
No, let me say 1 minute. 10 seconds.
You see, when I catch you guys, listen, when we're talking facts here, you got to come in with all this. We show you the numbers, then you want to say immaterial. This and that. You guys are full of. My man was here when the World Bank came out with a report on the economic improvement in Liberia. He said the people were going to send you the document that it was not right. My man got no credibility. You got no credibility on this thing.
Gilman, please.
All right.
Elvis asked a question. Elvis said,
Thank you,
I
Mr.
said
Goodman.
that the report that you are referencing starts to 2021.
No, let's go back to let's go back to prior. So what? That 2 years on our leadership. 2 years.
Yo, man, please.
That's 2 years. You cannot do that. 2 years of our leadership.
Yo, man, please. I'm saying, and I said that the report ends at 2020.
What?
Elvis asked a question. Elvis said, so up to 2023, how do you know it has improved? In the absence of data, there are certain things you use as proxy.
Thank you.
Your country is currently on the list of the 10 countries.
It doesn't matter. It doesn't matter. It doesn't matter.
Can he finish?
They can tell you not.
Why you not muting? Why you not muting, Mr. Gibbon?
In the absence of the data from 2020 to 2020.
Mr. Mane, you say here on this platform that the World Bank report on economic growth. Listen, on the economic growth, you say it was false. You say it was false, and you contacted those people at the World Bank, and they were going to send you the credible document, and you were going to put it out here. What happened to that?
Oh,
thank you.
Excuse me.
You got no credibility, man.
Dennis, weren't you the one that arranged the show for us to present the findings from what we did with the World Bank?
What you wrote was your paper.
Mr. Goodman, can you hold your peace a little bit?
You want to call a report.
Mr. Goodman, can you hold your peace a little bit?
Goodman, we all have to respect the audience on this show. People
but then that means you gotta respect the audience by saying the facts.
We gotta give the people listening to us. So
you
Mr. Goodman, you can't be doing this, sir. You can't be doing this.
So on the World Bank report that you're asking about,
let's leave the World Bank. Let's go to Glendy for our closing.
Okay, thank you.
Great show, Great show, Dennis and Ansony. Of course, Ali, I'll be looking out for your friend request, and I would definitely accept that. You've been somebody that I follow. But I want to say one thing here. We can only hope that the crowd game that we now have, and that we are so enthusiastic about, everybody is trying to focus on who has the largest crowd. I will continue to say that the momentum that was shown last week Sunday from Ambassador Burka's camp cannot be ignored by anyone. And I am pretty sure that momentum has propelled CDC to wake up. And the only person that has something to prove here in these elections is George Weah, because his record is not clear. He has a lot of issues. There are a lot of things that he's not being able to overcome. There's nothing that's standing out there or speaking out for him. So Burka doesn't have to prove anything. Burka was in the government 12 years ago. Cummings has never been in the government before. He doesn't have anything to prove. Gonglo has, yes, he's been in the government, but not at the hierarchy of a president. And so Moniba hasn't. The only person that has a record that has to go off his record so that Liberians can vote for him again is George Weah. And I don't know how he's going to do it, but we cannot deny the momentum that's out there from the crowd pressure. And I will say that what I saw Sunday, that the people did not care to walk in poo-poo water, and they were in poo-poo water, signifies that they're ready for change, and they don't care who's going to give it to them, as long as it is not George Weah they want to change. Thank you, everybody.
Thank
Hey,
you
my God, your
very
sister.
much.
Hey, big sister. I love you. Hey, there, small, but I love you, right?
I know.
Thank you very much.
Well,
And,
lady, how small brother you? Oh, like that, you can't have a small brother.
on that note, we want to close for tonight. We want to thank you very much for coming on Friday Night Debate. Always focus on Liberia, where we educate, we elevate, and promote all things Liberia. Till then, we close with our song that says, whether you support Wakai, Cummins, Weah, Gonglo, Appleton, or even me, we are all Liberians. Have a good night and God bless you.
We are Liberia. Liberia is our home. Liberia people. Either you hate it or we want. Liberia. Either you hate it or we want. Liberia, Liberia. Oh,